Have you ever worried that you might be the cool kid? You wear the latest fashions on top of all the trends. Or have you ever worried you were too much in the mainstream? Always so generic, more normal than your friends. Well, we've devised a test to put to rest your fears. There's no need to panic if you lend us your ears. Tonight you can't sleep easy after all that you've heard. Cause if you like the show, then you're probably a nerd. Oh, Canon, it's Canon, it's all. Tyler, Phil, and Boris. Oh, Canon, it's Canon, it's all in Canon.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the It's Canon podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things pop culture, the podcast where we talk about all things geek, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything because it's all in canon. We're your hosts. I'm Boris, and as always, I'm joined by Phil.
Hello, long-haired Phil.
Sure. And Tyler.
Hey yo.
Yes. The band is back. Oh man, what a week it's been. It's another Monday. It's another new week. It's another week here in the summer. A summer that seems to be progressing in many different directions. Phil, how was your week and weekend?
As you guys know, I happened to procure an Xbox S. And Ted Lasso Season 2 Episode 1 dropped, so I'm a happy camper.
Oh, I love that show so much. That episode was just so good. It was just so you know what it is about that show? It's lighthearted. It's happy. Yeah. It's good. It's funny. It's just a reminder that not all TV needs to be superheroes. Not all TV needs to be angry. Not all TV needs to be about sex. Not all TV needs to be emo. You can't have happy-go-lucky shows.
Yeah, and I'm discussing that with my friends right now, and I'm like, look, it's not the best show of all time, but it might be the best show of all time. Like, it's just going to make you feel good about life. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with it. I had to watch it twice just to get all the jokes because I was too busy laughing over some of them.
Yep.
So,
yeah,
it was a great episode. Like, unreal wit going on in that one. So,
all right, we're going to talk about your Xbox experience in a little bit. But before we go there, we need to check in with East Coast boy, Tyler. How's everything? Welcome back to the show. How are you? How's your weekend?
It's phenomenal. I mean, anytime that you make a big purchase like a house, you're terrified of the bajillion things that are going to go wrong. And we've been so lucky that consistently every expert that has come in has repeated the refrain of your only real concerns here are aesthetic.
Right.
The foundation's solid. It doesn't leak. We've been hit by a hurricane since I last talked to you all. And this basement was bone dry.
Right.
Nice.
So it's phenomenal. Where
yeah.
It's been insane. You guys can see an exposed pipe above me.
Not a euphemism. An actual exposed pipe. Yeah. Not his penis.
Yeah. I had to pull out a bunch of the boards to run Cat 6 and fiber through the basement and stuff.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it.
But
so you're in your basement right now?
Yes. So
Nice.
Our basement is my office, the wine cellar, the weight room, and what we euphemistically we call the prohibition room. Because the rec room down here has this awesome overstuffed leather couch.
Oh, nice.
And this huge leather chair. But it's like a very narrow, weird space. And then we've got like the PS5 and the Switch down there. And the wine room's around the corner.
Do you ever leave your basement?
Yeah, because I have a barbecue upstairs.
Oh, okay.
And another TV and the kitchen here is phenomenal.
That's awesome.
I've been living my best life.
That's awesome.
Phenomenal.
Man. It's so happy to hear from you. Congrats again. You said you went through a hurricane. We've been going through like the worst air quality you can humanly imagine here in Toronto.
Yes.
And tornadoes.
And tornadoes.
Yeah, but I remember what my life was like when I moved back to a house after living in an apartment for 10 years. So I know your happiness because it's like, hang on, I can, like, there's more than one bathroom and I can walk over to this other room that's only purpose is to be a spare room. Like, these are all luxuries, right? I'm like, oh, so I could actually put part of a collection in here type thing.
Yeah.
And
You could
Well,
also make jokes about your living situation, but that's neither here or there. So that's awesome.
Phenomenal.
No, that's awesome, man. That's so awesome. Like, I am looking so much, but right now the market is so fucked. I don't even know. Like, it's so weird.
Friend of mine is looking at renting an apartment back in Guelph.
Yep.
And their rent alone was going to be 40% more than our mortgage, all of our bills, our property tax, and our insurance.
You have any neighbor houses up for sale there?
Yeah, it's so much for sale out here right now. Because, like...
I know. One of my
insane.
best friends from my BlackBerry days lives out there now. Just loves it. Yeah, and it's fantastic.
It's ridiculous.
Yep.
I mean, it's
just
phenomenal.
wait for winter. You'll get the whole year in. You'll be like, I wish this was better, but I'm sure it's going to be still better than before.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. Like, I was rounding the corner on year 18 of renting. So, like, I was ready. And I really enjoy the fact that, like, if there's a thing I don't like, I just deal with it here.
Yep.
Right? Like, it's like, oh, I need a new Cat 6 plug. Well, I'm just going to run cable.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's wonderful.
Go to Home Depot, get a fish.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And phenomenal.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear, man. What else is going on? Have you been keeping busy otherwise outside of, like, settling in?
Yeah, I mean, I got a bunch of the freelance work. I'm taking another go at full-time freelancing for at least the rest of the summer.
Yep.
I managed to land one very big contract that I can't talk about yet because of NDA stuff.
Congrats.
I've got another big project that I can talk about where I got commissioned to do like my own standalone RPG about post-apocalypses.
Oh, okay.
So it's the world as we know it ends in a climate and pandemic related disaster, which I started writing this in 2017.
That's actually
and then the world happened and we got delayed because I was like, this is great material.
Oh, because a pandemic and climate change.
Yeah, I was like, this is great material. Just keep writing. And then it's about like society. It's society has already started to rebuild, and it's now you navigating this rebuilt society.
So
Very
you
cool.
just watch the news.
Yeah, right. I'm just like, oh, well, there we go.
Inspiration now. It's like, hey, look, floods in Germany. Hey, look, floods in China.
Yeah, I mean, so the first draft of the manuscript was due the April after COVID hit. And I literally was like, I cannot get this to you on time.
Yeah.
The world's just imploded. We gotta deal with this.
That's so funny. Oh, man.
And,
what a world we live in right now. It's so freaking weird.
And we caught up on a lot of TV.
Nice.
We watched all of She-Ra during quarantine.
Oh, it's so good.
The new Netflix one.
Yeah.
A great show. We're almost done all of Mystic Quest.
Yes.
Is that the Apple one or is that?
Yeah, it's Apple, Ubisoft, and the Always Sunny team.
Yeah.
My
favorite episode of season 1 has nothing to do with the actual story. You know which episode I'm talking about.
I don't know. Have you done season 2?
there's a
about
season
halfway
2?
through. Oh yeah.
Season
crap.
2 is emotionally destructive.
The first episode
So we
got
had-
to me.
No, that entire season we had to stretch it out because, like, yeah, we watched the second last episode of the second season after dinner, and we finish it, and Ashley goes to me and she goes, "Well, good luck at your podcast, you emotional wreck. You got 10 minutes to pull yourself together."
Yeah.
It's
The
brutal.
first episode of the second season really got to me, especially
Yeah.
because like I could relate, and everyone can,
Oh.
but I really relate to these people and kind of like their lifestyle. And for our listeners who don't know what show we're talking about, it's on Apple TV Plus. It's essentially about a video game studio and their trials and tribulations and their wackiness and stuff like that. It's, you know what's funny? That it's really not too much of a stretch of how tech companies are run.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, you see the other ways. I mean, you're talking about the flashback episode, right?
Yes.
So that comes back.
Oh shit, no.
That's still that is part of the plot, my guy.
Oh my
boy.
god.
Yeah, no, Boris is right. There's an episode in season 1 that has none of the same characters.
Yeah.
It's not set in the time. There's another episode like that in season 2 where it's only one of the same characters, and it's set about 60 years before the current stuff.
Crazy.
Oh, it's so good. It's
That's
so
awesome.
good. But
You know,
yeah,
I
it's
remember that.
Apple is killing it. Apple is honestly killing it. Yeah, Ted Lasso is like, I told Phil
agreed.
about the show last year. I fell in love with
Yeah.
it right away. And yeah, it's just like I can't stop talking about that show.
Yeah. My only bone to pick with you about Ted Lasso is that I agree it's a great show. I
But
don't argue it. I don't argue it's happy-go-lucky. Because it deals with some heavy stuff.
yeah, it does.
It's just unfailingly optimistic about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think yeah. You're right. You're right.
Well, you just watch an episode and you smile.
Yeah, no,
You know what I mean? Like, it can be
Yes.
heavy. You're right, but he's taking you on this journey of
Oh, yeah.
the optimism, right? And you're
Yeah.
just like, hey, guess what? I don't need to feel bad when watching a TV show.
100%.
That type of thing. That's all. And even on the Apple TV Plus, I watched Long Way Down, which is Ewan McGregor and his friend Charlie Boorman, or Long Way Up, and they were traveling from Argentina all the way up to Los Angeles on
Mhm.
motorbikes, electric
Motorcycles,
motorbikes. And it was just really great content and whatnot. I know they bought the franchise, but they have the Fraggles coming out. They are doing a lot of really interesting stuff on that channel.
Yeah.
Also, Tuca and Birdie, season 2 is now, I think, almost all out.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
It's,
Yeah.
I mean, they left Netflix, they got picked up by someone else, and it's still very good.
No.
I started For All Mankind.
For all mankind.
Yeah, so the pitch is right before Apollo 11,
Oh yes. I
right
know what
before
you mean.
Apollo 11, the Russians land on the moon first.
Yeah.
And they just kind of go from there. It's also Apple TV.
Yeah.
And it stars Joel Kinnaman, who
Yep.
just kills it again, as always.
Yep.
Oh, we're so lucky to have such great TV now coming in.
And
Has
then,
anyone-
Oh.
Go ahead.
I was going to say my last one. Have either of you watched Pig yet?
No, that's on my list.
I heard it's really emotional.
It
Like,
is possibly one of the best movies I've ever seen.
It's on my list.
It's phenomenal.
My friend has it on his Plex, and I keep on looking at it, and I'm like, do I want to cry tonight?
Oh yeah, it destroys you.
I had
Yeah.
that heads up from somebody on Twitter, and I'm like, okay, definitely move that into the Phil's gonna cry category. So prepare
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
You know what movie I was forced to watch a few weeks ago? Forgot to talk about this, and it was unexpectedly, absolutely emotional. That movie with the guy that plays Jughead on
Riverdale.
5 Feet Apart. Tyler is like just
Never even heard of this.
Nope.
yeah. It's something. It reminds me of like Mandy Moore's movie Walk to Remember, something shit
Yes.
like that. Anyways,
Yeah.
Well, you know what I found? I'm going to try watching it. I found it on Disney Plus after Fearless Fred on Twitter put a clip of it. It's a 2009 movie called Gentlemen Broncos.
Oh yeah.
And this thing looks absolutely ridiculous. It was 20th Century Fox, so naturally it's on Disney Plus here in Canada. And it's reminding me of Napoleon Dynamite right now, and it's got a lot of the same actors in it. So I don't know where it's going to go, but Fred had this guy throwing up a pink projectile vomit onto a deer. And that was the clip on Twitter. And I'm like, I'm sold.
Fair enough.
All right, Tyler, have you finished watching Loki?
Yeah.
Well, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I can't wait to see him again.
Yeah.
Gonna see him soon.
What are your thoughts on
My
the larger
niece-
MCU repercussions, if any?
I mean, we all knew this was happening, and it still fits my thing before of we're gonna get first introduced to him in, it sounds like, Quantumania.
Yep.
Which allegedly just started filming this week.
Today? Yep.
I didn't get if it was today or not, but allegedly he was first cast just for this cameo in Loki, and they're going to have someone else play the part, and he just blew their socks off.
Right.
And then they do a slight rewrite to make it work. Yeah. And again, you be able to skip the TV shows again, and it'll be fine. You're going to miss stuff, but it's going to work just fine. Of like, oh, the Avengers, the Infinity Stones created the multiverse. Because indirectly, yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did. Yep.
And then we get this, and now we're here.
Yep. Exactly.
My niece came back to me on the weekend. She watched the final episode and she said she thought it was a big letdown. Keep on getting that feedback that people are like, it was great. And then the last episode just dropped. It loses a lot of casual Marvel fans.
No. Here it is. No. Here's the thing.
Oh.
A lot of people need to be explained everything. Someone I know who I talk to regularly, not a comic person whatsoever, they explained it the best way. Marvel and the MCU and Kevin Feige respect their viewers. So if you're a long-time comic person, you are rewarded with these types of stories. Having said that, they don't hold it back. So there's this expectation that the casual viewer is going to go out and do their research. And apparently, a lot of people are actually doing that. And a lot of people are finding other stuff and other reference material to enjoy these shows a little more. But it's the average viewer who just wants to be explained everything that are finding these shows a big letdown at the end.
Yep, that was my takeaway. It's a tough call.
Yep. Anyone watch Masters of the Universe yet?
No.
I did.
And?
You know what? I liked it.
I loved it. I enjoyed it.
Some of it got leaked. I'm seeing my friends getting upset about it because they see the critical reviews are not, like, the critical reviews are great. The fan reviews are terrible. And I linked them an article on the weekend and I said, like, look, this is people getting angry at woke culture, right? Like, this is people bombing it because He-Man isn't the center of the show per se.
He never was.
He never was. I know. And that's the hilarious part is, like, I don't know what they're rebelling against. I'm like,
it's people don't remember what the show was. People don't remember watching the show. They have this contrived thing of Dolph Lundgren in Masters of the Universe movie where it's all about him, or because it's called He-Man, it has to be all about him. They don't actually remember what the show is about.
It's Masters of the Universe.
Exactly.
I don't even think it goes, I don't even know if it gets that complicated. I think it's called He-Man. And these are the same people who are like, I used to love Star Trek, and then this, or I used to love Bill Nye, and then this, or I loved when X-Men wasn't political, like in the 80s. Yep. And it's just, they just want to bitch about this modern stuff, and they're reactionaries.
Yeah.
It was a great story. It took turns that I didn't expect it to do. I just overall thought it was a great piece of entertainment. Like, I was just like, And at no point does it say He-Man anywhere. It's Masters of the Universe. When I used to collect the toys, it never said He-Man, the Masters of the Universe. It was Masters of the Universe. It was always that. It's
Exactly.
just, yeah, the opening credits had them, and I have the power and all that fun stuff.
Yep.
Exactly.
These are the
And
same
I'm just-
people who lambasted She-Ra on
Yep.
Netflix.
And are still lambasting She-Ra.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Let
once
us
again,
not
it's about having powerful female leads.
how dare they? Let us not forget that a certain YouTube personality shared a pretty porny looking She-Ra this week, being like, this is what she should have looked like. And people were like, she's supposed to be like 15, 14 in that show, my guy. You know that you're sexualizing a minor, my guy.
It's like when people do that to Sailor Moon characters and stuff, right? It's like they're literally going into high school.
Yeah.
Anyways, weekend box office. Interesting numbers. Old finished number 1, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, finished with $16.5 million. Snake Eyes finished number 2 with $13.35 million. Black Widow finished third with $11.6 million with a 55% drop week over week. Space Jam finished behind that with $9.56 million with a 69% drop week over week. Thank you. And then F9, and then Escape Room, Boss Baby, The Forever Purge, etc., 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 etc.
I mean, if you look at all of these, like Quiet Place down 46%, Forever Purge down 42%, Boss Baby 2 down 39%, Escape Room down 60%. Do we think just maybe it's only the people who like not as many people are going out to movies?
Yep. Well, that's the thing, right? Like, we were talking about this last week, Phil and I, that we were talking about how American or just cinema companies are pissed off at Disney over the Black Widow release experiment of it going to Disney Plus and it having a huge release on Disney Plus. They wanted to, their share of the pie. No one remembers that we're still in the middle of a fucking pandemic. There's a shit ton of people who don't want to go to the movies just yet, or the fact that, hey, let's change things up and not use this archaic 100+ year of way of watching movies.
I mean, not to mention, like, several places are getting into fourth wave now, right? Like, if you look at the American numbers,
they're bad.
Yeah.
As well, like, you have to look at things too. A Quiet Place 2 is available on Prime Video for free.
Here in Canada.
Yeah.
Like, here in Canada, yeah. But I'm just saying, like, that's available on Google Play Movies and things like that. People have choices now because they're eliminating the movie from the theater run to monetize it on the rental run and whatever distribution platforms they're cashing in on. So why is that movie going to contend at the box office, right? Like, that's it's just fair play. And the same thing goes for Black Widow. Like, the minute you do a simultaneous release, okay, all the great people, and I applaud you, go out and buy it or go to the movie theater and watch it and eat your expensive popcorn. All right, I get it. But then the next weeks are going to be flooded with people watching it on torrents and whatnot. Like, once it hits digitally, it just goes digital. You know what I mean? Like, that's
like
the
the Forever
price
Purge
of
last
that.
week came out digitally. That's all you're seeing in the gray web. F9 is coming out digitally this week. That's all you're going to see on the gray web.
Yep.
And then, but you know what's interesting? So, to this point, I'm keeping a track on Below Deck Mediterranean ratings. You can laugh all you want, but there's a reason for this. So, it's a reality show about yachties and yachty life. Fuck you, Phil. Fuck you. Keep on laughing. Keep on laughing, buddy boy.
Okay, I'm curious. You got me.
No, seriously. So it's about yachties. So the reason why I'm actually super interested in watching the ratings week over week is because this is the first season that it is being simulcast on Peacock now. It's a week ahead on Peacock than it is on Bravo. So the new episode airs on Monday, And then on Tuesday or Wednesday, Peacock releases the following week's episode.
It's an interesting strategy.
That's AMC is using this strategy with a lot of their shows. That news show, Kevin Can Fuck Himself, that's what they're doing. It's being released on AMC Plus before on AMC cable TV. So this seems to be the new strategy that a lot of these cable networks are using to get subscriptions. But they're hurting their ad dollars because I'm pretty sure they're, the golden demo of the 18 to 49 is being hurt by this.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Like, this is new water.
I mean,
so to speak.
Digging into those numbers briefly, Disney's already reporting 60 million from Disney Plus alone.
First week.
On their opening weekend.
Yep.
Which then that translates into a revenue of 33, which that number seems a little bit low to me, but I'm wondering what kind of accounting is going on with that.
Exactly.
That somehow we lost $27 million streaming a video we already made.
Well, I guess they gotta sign Florence Pugh to a new contract, so that's where it's going.
I mean, I think they already knew that.
Yeah,
like
I know. You know what I mean.
Still obviously set up.
But you know what I mean.
I was impressed by her.
She's awesome. She was so good in even Fighting with My Family. She was good in Midsummer. She's great in this. She's such a good actress.
Yeah, I mean, Black Widow made its money back.
Yeah,
and it's the biggest. And I'm only going to these numbers, these ones at hand.
Yeah,
but it's the biggest opening since. This is kind of fucked up. It's the biggest opening since Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I know. And then you have to remember when Rise of Skywalker came out. It was December 2019. No, so it's like funny though. Oh, totally. Like it's like, oh yeah, 2020 was basically nothing. We're a year older, but nothing happened.
So funny.
Also,
no, you're allowed to speak, Phil.
It's a pandemic year. What am I gonna say? I haven't been to the movies in 2 years, and I don't want to go back.
My sister went yesterday, apparently.
Oh, jeez.
What did she? Oh, yeah, she watched Old.
Damn, M. Night Shyamalan.
I want to watch that Anthony Bourdain documentary just to see what the hoopla is about.
That's a download, unfortunately, or a stream. I can't support that in any way beyond something more pedestrian, just because of why we talked about it last week. Like, it's just a betrayal of his memory.
What
potentially
talking about pedestrian and not wanting to support people, I would hate to be Activision right now.
Oh my god.
So did that not blow up?
Following a 2-year investigation by the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, the state has filed a lawsuit against Activision Blizzard for fostering a frat boy culture in which female employees are allegedly subject to unequal pay and sexual harassment. As reported by Bloomberg, Activision Blizzard is being accused by the state of California of discriminating against female employees at nearly all levels of employment, including in regards to compensation, promotion, assignments, termination. The state alleges Activision Blizzard's leadership has failed to address any of these outstanding issues or prevent them from occurring within the workplace. Blizzard President J. Allen Brack has emailed staff at the company addressing the recent lawsuit, calling the reported behavior, quote-unquote, completely unacceptable, and pledging to discuss issues with employees to help the company move forward.
I saw the fallout from this over the weekend, and I was looking at Alana Pierce's tweets about her experience in the gaming industry, and I found them absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, I saw some stuff because a friend, I knew, yeah, she's a friend of a friend, and I was just so happened to be talking to this person, and yeah, they were kind of telling me some of the things that she told them. Which came out on her Instagram stories or something, but it was just a shit show Like, she even went into detail about the clothes she wears, before a stream or before a meeting and stuff like that, right? So it's just like such a shit show.
She's always been open about that she's got to hide her chest so she doesn't get comments, because apparently she's bustier than she lets on type thing. Because people think because she has boobs that it's okay to sexualize her. But that's just her, right? Like that part is really gross. But then it was to the point where she's documenting stories about going to industry parties after hours, getting groped by a specific individual, deciding to get in a cab and go to a different place, having that person follow her to that place, continue to basically try to grope her until she was finally had enough friends at that event where they stood up for her and shamed the guy. But this was all like from people that she was working with.
Yep.
At the
Exactly.
time. Like it's not, I hate to say it, it wasn't acceptable back then, but it was part of life. But it's not the 1920s. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the boys club. You can't be doing this stuff.
What I don't understand is how the president can have the honest to God balls and play the I didn't know what was going on game.
Right.
I mean,
when you're paying a woman 30% of what a guy is getting or whatever.
Because it's worked in the past.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let's look at the number of times that video game executives could just say whatever and get away with it.
Look at CD Projekt Red and their issues,
yeah,
right?
Great example. There's another company that Vertigear. Another freaking company also said a bunch of bullshit that, like, the Activision thing just ate the auction from the room. And like, why do they do that? Because it's been fine. Because they've just been able to do it in the past.
Well, Ubisoft has this cultural, off issue in their ranks, don't they? Like, they've been exposed as having a lot of issues on that front.
Like, I want to say for the last 6 months that keeps getting coverage. That's what I was thinking of, that Ubisoft has got to be like, oh, thank God Activision Blizzard is taking the attention off of us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's go back to hiding some skeletons.
But if you were Activision, okay, and somebody in that chain, I don't care, like, I know they all know, but somebody had to be, like, really hyper aware.
Oh, yeah.
Of things. Like,
HR?
to the point where they're going back to their bedroom at night and thinking, what's happening to Ubisoft is going to be 10 times worse for us if we don't fix our shit and soon, and say that we've moved past that. We acknowledge that it happened and we're moving past it as a company. And here's what we've done to make, make amends for past pay degradation, past sexism, everything that was displayed in the workplace. You have a chance to turn that corner, and they're just going to go now and go, hey, we didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not... I'm going to push back, not to try to throw any individuals under the bus, but talk about it, because I've been in workplaces like this, and like, Blizzard Activision is so bad that, like, a bunch of men were saying they were sexually harassed and shit. And part of the issue is, like, all right, let's say you're a mid-level manager in HR, like Kevin Meyer, who came out on TikTok saying all these allegations are true and is a lot worse. And he's like, he's the one that came out, and it's like, let's say you wanted to stop the behavior and you're in this huge company. Like, what do you do even if you're in HR? Like, you go to your boss and your boss says it's not an issue.
Yeah, I can see that it gets dead-ended and it can be really frustrating from that level. But I'm just thinking on the bigger picture, like, somebody higher up looks at the absolute PR destruction that's going on to Ubisoft and how they're having to constantly deal with it. It's like whack-a-mole. It just keeps on popping up. They keep on having to issue statements. They keep on having to challenge the culture. And that's where I'm a little bit disappointed that somebody in that kind of upper ranking said, you know what? Maybe we better start repointing this company a little bit and having a discussion.
Yeah.
I expect it has to come from the top, right? Like, you're right. There's no way that going to HR, because let's face it, in most companies, HR are just basically there to really protect management. I know it's called human resources, but they really
Yeah.
defend a lot of management.
Treating a
They're-
human like a resource.
Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly.
My issue with this is that if this were a more accepted culture, a more accepted company, we'd be hearing a lot more about this. But because it's Activision Blizzard, a video game company for nerds, it's easily swept under the rug. Let's take a look at the video game industry and the comic book industry in general. Like, how big of an issue is this in those industries? We know it's a huge industry. Look at the comic book industry itself, right? But because it's seen as a geek culture and, you know, a little not real entertainment sometimes, like this stuff can run rampant. It took a lawsuit and a Bloomberg investigation to really like blow it out into proportion, like into the public eye.
And it's, you know, still probably nothing's gonna get done.
Yeah. That's like, this is my biggest issue with this, right? Like if this were Facebook, for example, they'd be in Congress by now.
Nope. Disagree. That's where I'm gonna push back. Because we gotta remember, Google had a guy who literally sent a memo saying women were just less good at tech. And it didn't get a lot of pushback. And then just kind of we all let it happen.
Yeah.
I didn't get that memo.
Like let's think about what it took to get Weinstein taken care of, and the fact that Casey Affleck just got away scot-free.
As did a couple other people.
Well, yeah, a bunch. Casey Affleck was front of mind of like someone who I'm like, I'm. If my memory is correct, it was either alleged or proven he had committed a crime.
Yeah.
And we just were all like, well, you know, what are you going to do? Or that Marky Mark, like, found guilty of beating up an African-American because he was African-American.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see what's going on. Like it's you know, we're seeing staff are talking about open discrimination in the workplace. There's a whole article that came out like 40 minutes ago. You know, frat boy, etc. Will this change the gaming culture? Probably not. James Franco, that's the one who I was thinking of right now. He agreed to pay $2.2 million to settle sexual misconduct fraud lawsuits. Like, you know, like. Anyways, I can go on a huge rant about this and like.
I've got a Muppet controversy that I found out today.
Oh no!
So over the weekend, Muppet Babies was on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
And they showed Gonzo wearing a dress.
Okay.
He was Princess Gonzo. And now people are outraged on the internet that Disney is showing that kind of content to kids.
Right.
Sure.
And I'm like, do you not realize Gonzo dates chickens?
Do you not realize that Bugs Bunny has been dressing up as a woman and kissing Elmer Fudd since the 50s?
What's the big deal here? I'm like, he's the weirdest character there is. Why are we getting upset over this? But yeah.
Yep. It's a thing.
I remember watching Bugs Bunny and seeing him in the woman's dress and everything. And you know what? It didn't alter my universe. It was just like, that's what Bugs Bunny's doing. Same with Gonzo. I never questioned him and Camilla.
You're like, look, whatever a Gonzo and a chicken do in their own room, if everyone's consenting.
I just don't get it, man. I just don't get it. It's a funny world. And yet
Yep.
they're not upset about the Activisions of the world and the cultures there.
Well, I'm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me being a shit disturber.
What a shit show of a. And then, man, it just seems to be a lot of things that pisses a lot of people off. Because I've been seeing some amazingly ignorant comments about Michael B. Jordan producing, maybe starring in the Black Superman series, the Val Zod series for HBO Max.
Sure.
Nothing shocks me.
Yep.
That's my defeated tone. I'm sorry.
Do we want to do some good news?
Actually, I want to ask you a question, Tyler. What do you think
Okay.
of this Steam Deck?
Oh, look, it's gonna be another piece of Steam cash out, and they're not gonna support it. Like, I got in the other room, my Steam hooks up to the TV one for you,
Oh yeah.
and they just been like, they don't support that shit anymore. Every time I get it, I gotta like rehack it to make it work.
Yep.
Right?
That's
like
the issue,
Steam
right?
doesn't.
That's the
Steam
issue
doesn't
right
support
there.
their fucking.
After the splurge, Boris and I were like, after the press, Boris and I were kind of excited about this thing. Then I started doing more research on it, and I'm like, it only does 30 frames per second. They've got such a crap track record of hardware, and I'm like, I'm not touching this with my $700.
But especially for like, let's like with where technology is right now. Like, hey Phil, how many years of Stadia can you get for $700?
Yeah, I know, right?
And just stream it through any monitor in your house.
No, that's exactly it. I'm like, why am I? It's just to get in on that PC gaming thing, but it's blocked by Linux, right? So I'm like, we're dependent upon people wanting to actually put it on that platform. It's just not enough to throw it on the Steam, to get it on the Valve's machine, to get it. Oh,
Yep.
man. I'm just like, how many layers is this now, and what an ecosystem? I'm like, no, like you say, Stadia, Xbox, PlayStation.
Yep.
30 frames per second. Like, come on, man. That's pretty harsh.
Yep.
I'm becoming a frames per second snob. That's what I've learned this weekend.
And ray tracing. You give a shit about ray tracing?
It depends. I'm now to the point where the FPS is starting to really take over for me
Right.
on gaming.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know what it is, but buttery smooth games are buttery.
Pokemon's getting a live action TV series from Netflix. That's a thing that's going to happen.
I mean,
Okay.
they're talking about taking from the creative team of Detective Pikachu, and that wasn't a bad movie.
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Cute.
Yeah,
Very cute.
I'm on board.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what?
Same.
There's a huge appetite for it. They do well.
Yep. Thrawn and Ezra have been cast.
That's the rumor.
Yep.
I found
Phil.
their Thrawn.
Dun dun.
What do you think about the casting? What is the casting?
I haven't seen the names. I deliberately avoided it because it was heavy rumor.
Yeah.
So when I see it as rumor like that, it's, you know what? We're not going to know until it actually airs or something leaks on IMDb or something like that. Like, we knew Tamara Morrison was going to be reprising the role of Boba Fett because of some IMDb link or leak or something like that. So we had a good guess, but we still weren't sure who was what. Disney play it close to the vest. There's lots of speculation. I've seen it speculated in the past 2 years so much that I just don't believe anything.
Yep, exactly.
Anymore. Because I heard that it was Phil Madsen or something, or Michael Madsen or his brother or whatever. It just kept on doing that, and he's the voice in the cartoons, and blah, and then they got the history with Ashley Eckstein, and they didn't reprise her as Ahsoka. So I just don't put any weight in any of it. Just like we, kind of do on this show.
Exactly.
Has to be credited.
Ish.
Ish. I'll find out, I'm sure, and see some buzz. I watched, Star Wars Explained. I'm kind of down on my Star Wars theory. I'm not digging him right now. But I do like some of his content. But Star Wars Explained is a pretty good resource, and they usually have half, but in reality and 1 foot in speculation. But like, if you're going to go out there and watch YouTube channels about Star Wars, stay the hell away from Mike Zero. That is
Yeah.
pure trash.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how many times every week he's like, "Oh, this is going to happen. It's for sure. Kathleen Kennedy's fired."
Yeah. part of that hate machine that just gets people paid.
Yeah, it's literally the fear mongering and everything like that. I just can't stand it in the Star Wars universe as far as that goes.
So, going back to streaming, we saw this year that Warner Brother movies went straight to HBO Max, and then they're going this split simul release. So I guess the powers that be had a lot of discussions, and it was announced that Warner Brothers is going to be releasing about 22 exclusive movies onto HBO Max next year.
That's a lot of content.
That is a lot of content. It makes sense. It makes sense that was going to be the plan. Like, you're going to have your theatrical releases, and then you're going to have like your HBO Max exclusives, which I'm going to be very interested to see if there's any big name movies, like high budget movies, or are we going to get like Netflix like exclusives, and by that I mean low quality, starring Bruce Willis.
Oh God. Yeah. Well, I you know what? I'd like to see, to be honest, in the Canadian marketplace, I want to see HBO Max come into the Canadian marketplace more officially, because it's driving me nuts the way that Bell are running it with Crave, because they're constantly running the ads here in Canada. That new one, Crave, this month, and they list all the movies, and they never once mention in that ad that you need to have 2 subscriptions in order to get those movies. You need to have Crave, and you need to have HBO.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how they're getting away with that.
No one gives a shit. No one notices.
It's a thing. Yeah, I know. It's like that's $40 a month what you're asking for right there. I would happily give just $20 and get rid of all of it.
What's it called? So we're seeing more and more chatter in the mainstream media about the semiconductor and shipping issues. The semiconductor issue, analysts are actually saying it's going to last into 2023.
Woof.
Yeah.
I heard previously like spring 2022, so that's a more accurate picture now.
Yep. It's going to be a hell of a thing. Like, again, buy your electronics now. Buy what you can. At work, we're having issues getting computers.
Yeah, same here. And the other issue is that the used car market is inflating.
Yeah,
because you can't get a new car, but the new used cars have so much demand on them now. If you want to sell and you want to, walk to work or just work from home and get rid of your vehicle, it could be a good opportunity coming up in order to make a little bit extra coin on it.
Yep.
It's a crazy world we live in, man.
Yeah, I know.
Tyler can get a boat. Tyler can get a boat.
Yeah, he can.
He's on the East Coast.
Yeah, good for him. PS5 restock is angering people. Well, gonna have to keep waiting.
You know what's funny? Well,
what's funny?
I know we'll get into it when we get into it, but I pulled up the store I bought my Xbox Series S from, and you can order the Xbox Series X, no problem right now.
Yep. I don't know how you've ever had issue. Like, I've never had an issue. I just choose not to buy it.
It wasn't showing. It wasn't hitting. Now that I say that, when I scratched just slightly deeper, I found it everywhere.
Yeah.
But the one spot that was reliable as an app was showing that it's out of stock.
Yeah.
And the other one, naturally being EB Games, was their website is broken.
Well, their
Yeah,
website
website's
is
broken.
trash.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Because you can put it,
It's absolutely garbage.
there's a lot of issues with it.
Yeah. So I didn't think to check with my local microplay who has them on the shelf.
Yep.
But it you know, Staples has it, but I also hear these horror stories of ordering it from Staples and then finding out that it's back ordered for 2 months and they don't tell you.
Mm.
And they just take your money and make you wait.
Mhm.
So I was a little bit apprehensive. So I was going to go to Toys R Us because I knew it was physically in stock at my local store, or go to Best Buy, who was saying that it was physically in stock. So it came down to that, and that reporting isn't always easy to follow.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
that's why I thought it was harder to get. But I know I've seen them in stores.
Well, now that we're talking about it, tell us about your out-of-box experience, your purchasing experience, your first weekend with the system and whatnot.
Okay, so I ran this thing through the paces. It's just an S. Some things that I was under, some pretenses that I was assuming or was under or led to believe by media, is that this is a 2K gaming box, not a 4K gaming box. However, I get it out of the box. I hook it up to a 2K monitor, strangely enough, which is kind of part of the reason why I bought it. And first of all, the setup is completely different than any other Xbox. You have to download an app, take a picture of a QR code. Then I'm assuming that that QR code has all of the serial number and everything of that box in it, so it registers it to you without you even knowing.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm assuming.
So, because there were points at which you could opt out of the setup and it would just happen on the actual Xbox.
Hmm.
So that was a little more normal. So there is a little bit of a corralling that goes on, which I was, it's no big deal, but I'm just thinking there was no way around that QR code. So I'm like, if you don't have a cell phone, a smartphone, which I know that's a very small minority of people, but I would imagine there might be people who don't have that option. I guess you got to call Microsoft.
Yeah, there's got to
But-
be another way to do it, right? Like there has to be.
Yeah, I just went for the easiest way. At that point, I'm excited to get it going.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, like, initial impressions are okay. It's a little bit smoother than the Xbox One S that I had. So the Series S is a bit smoother, but overall, it would be akin to me going from a PS4 regular to a PS4 Pro.
Mm.
Because the operating system stays exactly the same.
Mhm.
You move right into the system. I plugged in my hard drive from the One S. I just moved everything directly over. Didn't do any special work on the old system. Put it on the Series S, started it up, and boom, my background's the same. Log in, everything's just there. I'm like, okay, well, this is fine, but it just didn't feel that monumental like the PlayStation 5, which is like a redone store and everything. So it's
Yeah.
got its pluses and minuses because all of the apps that worked on the One S just work on the Series S or the Series X. So you
Yep.
get everything there and it's just re-registering it. So that's a plus because of the variety, but it just doesn't feel like you've made a move, right? The controller's almost exactly the same. It's a little edged off, a little more on the triggers. There's a third button in there, and the bumpies are a little bit better than they were. So on the controller front, PlayStation wins hands down for having innovation there. Yeah, and everything else were just general surprises. So I hooked it up to a 4K monitor, and guess what? It plays all of its videos in 4K. Okay. So then I start, well, what about gaming? What resolution am I in when I game? And I pick up Forza Horizon 4 and start playing that. I download the enhanced edition for the Xbox XS, and it's playing in 4K. No problem. And it's playing in 4K at 60 frames per second. Because I'm like, this is really smooth compared to the S,
Yeah.
Series S, or these One S. So I'm like, this is like, that frames per second that we were talking about. So I'm starting to form this opinion that, hey, this is really good for racing. And then I did some combo racing with friends who were playing on their older generation Xboxes, and it worked flawlessly. All in 4K. Everything's great. Downloaded Flight Simulator, which launches tonight at midnight. 100 gigabytes of that. I downloaded Outriders, the XS edition, stuff like that. Everything works great on it. It's exceeding my expectations technically wise.
So it's exceeding expectations in terms of the next gen Xbox or for the Xbox Series S.
The Series S.
Yeah.
As far as I thought that it was going to be a 2K kind of crappy experience, like I moved it even over to my 4K TV and I put it on the 4K TV. The 4K TV is capable of 120 hertz at 1080p. And the Xbox figured that out. And it's just like, well, if there's a 120 game, you can play 120. So I can't find that it's falling down anywhere because my PlayStation 5, it can only play 120 hertz at 1080p on any game when I look that up. Yeah. So this is surprising to me that it's got way more horsepower and capability than I thought it would, especially for a box like half the size of the PS5.
Yes.
It is exceptionally tiny. The only thing that I have yet to do research on is how does it handle games that I had previously loaded onto the external hard drive that were keyed in to the disc, because now I don't have a disc drive. So those old 360 games where I have, Force Awakens 2, the disc, I got to try starting that game up because now it knows that it can't put a disc in. It's all weird little things like that. Like they're tackling them as a company. Mm-hmm. They are. And I'm kind of excited too, because the hard drive is exceptionally small. I am probably going to buy that 1 terabyte card.
Yep.
That's expensive, but extremely portable. You know what I mean? Right. I'm like, so if I do get an X down the road, I can just plug this thing in and get an instant 1 terabyte.
So from your experience right now, what would be the key difference between the X and the S? Why would I want to get an X?
The X is definitely going to be a beast when you get into the exclusive titles. Mm-hmm. So the big test is going to be tonight or tomorrow probably, when I load up Flight Simulator, because that's going to push the system. So I'm like, right now I'm playing old games on a new box and impressed that it's playing the old games at the high resolution and high frame rate. So I don't think it's pushing the box. But the minute I put in Flight Simulator or the minute I put in Halo Infinite when it releases, that type of thing, then all bets are off. Like now I'm going to see it struggle. Then I'm going to see the frame rate drop. Then I'm going to see all of this great stuff start to evaporate and go, why, oh, why didn't I spend the extra $200 or $300?
Right. Makes sense.
So, yeah, but for portability and everything like that, like there's Kickstarters now where you can just go out and get a screen that attaches to the back, puts on ports, and folds onto the top of it. So you can have it would be like a chubby laptop. As long as you have a power source, you can game on this LCD screen in a hotel or whatever, right? It's something that you can just drop in a bag, really. It's that small. It's a little bit fat, but it's not that bad. You could move this thing around. That's why Alana Pierce, when she went to Australia, took an Xbox One S.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
Yeah, and funny thing is, the one thing that stands out to me that's kind of weird is they didn't give me a USB A to C charging cable for the controller, and there's no USB-C port on the device. Everything's a USB A port.
Interesting.
So, at least there's one USB-C port on the PlayStation 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And things like that. So I see that embracement there, but I have to look in that box again and stuff because it's kind of like a bit of a lackluster.
You just took everything out
unboxing, but
set it up.
Yeah, I didn't even I just unplugged my old Xbox and used the same cord and HDMI cable.
Right.
Just it's all universal. That's and that's to their credit, but also to their detriment. You know what I mean? Sometimes when you have to work for it, you go, this is different and maybe it's better. Right?
Yep.
It's that impression. But when
For
it's
sure.
just hot swappable, you're like, what did I upgrade?
I mean, isn't the PS4 same as the PS5 plugs?
I think it might be.
I think that's also the same.
I don't remember.
And
Yeah.
to that, they're also like they're an older style. Like it's not. They're the a bunch of printers use the same cable as the
Yes.
PS5.
They do.
Yeah.
Yep. I know that hack. And the funny thing is, though, I never took my PS4 out of the spot that it's in, my PS4 Pro, because the PS5 wasn't going to fit there.
I wasn't gonna fit there.
So I'm like,
so funny.
you know, that shelf is going to collapse.
Sounds about right.
So, yeah, okay, I'm going to have to run the cable.
Yeah.
But yeah,
All right.
you know,
Well,
it wasn't terrible. Go check out the Xbox, everybody.
yeah, there you go. All right, we're hitting the hour mark. Phil, do your thing.
All right, if you want to tell us why Xbox sucks or anything else about what we talked
343
about here,
sucks.
you can.
Why 343 sucks, I said. Go ahead. You can continue.
Oh, 343, it does suck. It ruined Halo. You can hit us up on our website at www.itscanonpodcast.com. You can track us down on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at It's Canon Podcast. You can email us at show at It's Canon Podcast. You can subscribe via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play. Anywhere you find podcasts, you're going to find the It's Canon Podcast. If you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe, tell a friend, and if the platform allows it, leave a rating and review. And thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us.
Yep. We thank every person who has listened to this, whether it's the first time or the 100th time you've listened to us. Thank you very much. We will be back in a week's time to give you more pop culture news, more geek news. And the best part of it all is it's all in canon. He's Phil. He's Tyler. I'm Boris. Good night.